we'll be looking at Titus chapter 1 in a moment, but I'd like to, as part of the introduction, look at 1 Corinthians chapter 4, please. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, I'm going to read a few verses there, or a portion of those verses in a moment here. But let me ask you a question here. You see in the notes there, I'm asking you about thrilling things or exciting things or scariest things. And I don't know what what's something thrilling that you've experienced? What? Okay, birth of a child, okay. I thought that's what you said at first and then something anyway. Pardon my old ears, all right? Yeah, what else? What else is thrilling? Yeah, there's a exciting, well, yeah, Jim.
Shot at by an airplane.
Okay. I get it. In the military, I mean, yeah. Scariest? Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, there's something goes through your body like that, right? Yikes. All right, I knew you were in some active duty, but I didn't know that exactly happened. Anyone else? Something scary, something exciting, something thrilling? Being a grandma. That's thrilling. Yeah, you have some extra grandkids here today. I saw the cousins embrace this morning. Good. Yeah. Anything else? Wrecking a motor. Aha. You did that. All right. I was thinking about some of these, let me just go through some of my list. You see a lot of things on there. I tried to get a picture of John on the right there with a snake. And I know it would never happen. But yeah, what are some exciting things? Anybody have an exciting sports win in your sports career? Yeah, all right. Yeah, there you go. Softball champions, right? That kind of thing. How about skydiving? I know a few years ago some of yeah, okay. Yeah, that's kind of thrilling, isn't it? Kind of stupid to jump out of a perfectly good plane, though, right? The thrill is there, right? That's just thrill seeking. Maybe water diving off something, dive off a cliff or something like that. And not that I'm recommending any of these things, children, but ski jumping or last time I did a ski jump, broke my ski, and I haven't been. That's the last time I jumped on purpose. Roller coaster. There's some thrills, right? I was going to say Ferris wheel, but I'm going to get after you if you raise your hand on that one. If that's your thrill, you ain't seen much, all right? Yeah, a fast car. Yeah, I knew there'd be a few of you there. And that's what, when you mentioned a motorcycle, I've been thinking about this. One of the, maybe a scary moment, but a thrilling moment is taking off on a motorcycle, and just this one, they had stripped it down to hardly any metal on it. They replaced metal with plastic. It was so lightweight. And my neighbor said I could try it out. And I tell you, you get going so fast and you feel like, I don't think anything's touching the road. You felt like you were flying. And anyway, fortunately I had enough sense to back off. But yeah, better than you did. Yeah. Anyway, but there are just lots of things. Ever been lost? Yeah, been lost. I've been lost in the wrong part of a city. Yikes. Ever been lost in the woods? Yeah. And ever faced the unknown? We had some prayer requests of facing the unknown, didn't we? Facing unknown things. Jim's got it better than me. I did face a gunman before. Face a bear, snake, skunk. Okay, yeah. If you face a skunk, you want to make sure he's facing you, right? Anyway, how many of those things that you did did you volunteer to do? You were willing to do those. Yeah, that's why you got on the motorcycle. That's why you volunteered in the middle of, I mean, a lot of those things, yeah, that's why, you did some of those things. And what was it? Was it for the thrill? Is that why you jumped out of the plane? For the thrill? Yeah, pretty much. Was it a dare? Was it pride? Was it a mistake? I mean, yeah, we realize mistakes afterwards a lot of times. Sometimes it's connection to something like money or whatever it might be, that you're challenged to do that. Let me ask you another, now that I got you a little excited, got the adrenaline going, remembering some things, have you ever experienced a thrill in ministry? A thrill in serving the Lord? Yeah. Why? Okay. Share the gospel and a girl, and she truly trusts Christ. Yeah. There's a thrill with that is something else. A lot of these things that I listed here are things that I've experienced, and but the thrill of being where God wants you to be and God using you in ministry is incomparable. And I want to encourage you to face the incomparable. I want to encourage you in ministry today to serve the Lord, and that's where we're going to end up today. But I know sometimes, what's the biggest fear in ministry? Rejection. It's people. Yeah, rejection from people. You share the gospel, well, they're not going to want to believe this. I mean, that's almost what we think. And a lot of times it's fear of people, but when we get down to the bottom line, it's God who judges. It's God who judges. It's not people. It's God who holds us accountable. That's why I wanted to take you to 1 Corinthians 4 for two reasons. One, it uses the word steward that we are dealing with in Titus, but it also points out that God judges. In verse 1, let a man so consider us as stewards of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. So here's the Apostle Paul talking about those that were with him. Let people just count us as stewards, ministers, and the sense of just being God's servant and being used of God. And you see that phrase all through Scripture, serve the Lord. You see that idea. And it has different connotations at different times. But look at verse 2. Moreover, it is required in stewards that one be, turn my page here because I have it written here, one be found faithful. We've just sung about a faithful God. God is faithful, and that ought to stir us and move us to be faithful. He goes on to say, and we're not in the context there very well, but he says, but with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by a human court. Don't worry about the humans. Skip to the verse 4. He who judges me is the Lord. He who judges me is the Lord. It's not about what someone else judges you by. Therefore, verse 5, judge nothing before the time until the Lord comes. That's when judgment will be real. Who will both bring to light the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsels of the heart. Then each one will have praise. Then each one's praise will come from God. Notice the idea: we're stewards. We're to be faithful. God is the one that we are responsible for. And it comes back to the heart. Serving the Lord is a matter of the heart. Now turn with me to Titus. Because in Titus we're going to see, and you notice my title there, don'ts for overseeing stewards. We're going to look at the idea of don'ts. We're in a context of elders' responsibilities. And, as I came to this, I thought, I don't want to preach this one. I don't want to be negative. Because a lot of times people get the idea of church as being, yeah, the preacher gets up there and just yells at us for what we shouldn't be doing. You know, that's not what I want to do. I want you to serve the Lord. And so you'll see in my summation of each one of these points, even though they begin with a don't or a not, each one of these, we're going to turn it around and we're going to make a positive assertion here with each one of these points that we're going to make. But we're going to have 5 don'ts, then there's going to be 7 do's here, but we're not going to get to those. We're going to focus on these. But as we look at the idea of elders, and that's the context we're in, the idea of elders who are overseers and they're stewards, picking up in verse 5 of chapter 1 of Titus. For this reason I left you in Crete, that you should set in order the things that are lacking and appoint elders in every city as I commanded you. So that's the goal, appointing elders. That's Titus's role. Paul left him there for that purpose. If a man be blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, not accused of dissipation or insubordination. For a bishop must be, and the word bishop is the word overseer. For an overseer must be blameless as a steward of God. There it is, that idea of stewards. That's what we focused on a month ago when we were in Titus. And then picking up, not given to, not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but hospitable, a lover of what is good, sober-minded, just, holy, self-controlled, holding fast the faithful word as he has been taught, that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and convince those who contradict. But we're going to focus on the nots there in verse 7. And it's all about a steward, someone who has the responsibility of oversight. But before we go on, I want to review what we've learned so far about elders. Number 1, they are to be believing men. Number 2, they are to be morally pure. If they're married, they are to have a good marriage. If they have children, they are to be in line or faithful to him. And number 5, these men are to be about God's business as his stewards. Need to count themselves as stewards, ones who are serving the Lord in God's business. And then, maybe before we start too, I want to say all of these things ought to be true of all of us. These general characteristics, they ought to be true of all of us so that it should be easy to pick elders from among the body. Now, some of you ladies are saying, hey, you said men. Okay, all these other characteristics ought to be true of you because these would be God's will. You might remember when we talked about the idea of a husband of one wife. You might remember, and I told you about a guy who said, well, that's just for elders. I think every man that's not an elder ought to have a husband, ought to be able to have more than one wife. But his wife wouldn't let him. Remember that? And anyway, but when you stop and look at these things, when you stop and look at the list of things that are here, these are characteristics that we all ought to have to honor and serve the Lord. These ought to be characteristics that ought to be natural among God's people. And so keep that in mind as we look at these. Don't just push them aside, oh, that's just elder stuff. It's something for all of us to get out of this. And, we ought to be ready to serve the Lord from the heart. Serve the Lord from the heart. And so keep the heart in mind. Look at the first one. Blameless stewards are not self-willed. And the idea, that's a heart matter, isn't it? The word for self-willed there is literally the word for self. And we use this word all the time. You ever say the word automobile? Well, the word auto is from the Greek meaning self. And mobile, self-propelled, self-going. We use that word all the time, and that's what this word is. And then the second word is the idea of hedon. We get our word hedonistic out of it. It's the word hedonistic. And that's for excessive pleasure seeking, that kind of an idea. And so a blameless steward is not hedonistic. He's not, and somewhere along the line, I ran across the definition here about arrogance. He's not an arrogant type person. He's not strutting his own stuff. And, you know, I mentioned the idea of the thrill of ministry. But, you know, I don't care about the thrill of ministry in a sense that it's not about me. You know, it's not about us, even in ministry. And I think that's what he's getting at here, that it's not a focus on us. Ultimately, as we serve the Lord from the heart, it is God who gives the increase. God is the one working, and if there's anything good that comes out of me, it is God that is doing it. And if any results come, you know, you just happened to be there when this girl came in. It probably could have been any of us who shared Christ with that little girl, and she trusted Christ. It could have been any of us, because God was ready to give the increase, if you will. Now, I could even go further. I think God had you right there at that right time, and you got the thrill of doing that. But, you know, are you ready to be where God wants you to be? Are you ready? That's the sense here on the positive side. And, you know, you've heard me say over and over again, as far as my desire is, there will never be a Jeff Seekins ministry. You know, there'll never be one named after me. That's not the point. It's God who gives the increase. Therefore, God gets the glory. And so this just eliminates any type of, well, I'm an elder. Well, I'm the pastor. I'm the bishop. I'm the cardinal. I'm the whatever hierarchy you want. That's not in the question at all here. That's why that word bishop, we need to come back to the idea, it's overseer. It's the work that's done. It's not about position at all. And it's, you know, the Pharisees in Paul's day, in Jesus' day, they wore fancy clothes with all sorts of things on them for recognition. It's nothing. It's nothing about that kind of thing. That's not the focus. So I remember a situation as I was thinking about this, pretty close to 50 years ago, I got on a plane to go out to Denver to marry my bride. And I was reading a Christian book, and a well-known or recognizable, at least in Christian circles, Christian leader came by, and he kind of seemed like he was strutting. I mean, it seemed kind of arrogant to me. And he made some comment about my book and passed by with his entourage to first class. You know, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. Now, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be so sensitive, you know, but it just rubbed me the wrong way in the sense, of course, now he'd have a private jet and he wouldn't have to worry about mixing with the unwashed masses, right? Like Paul did when he went on the dirty roads, or he went into the prisons, or we went into, you know, anyway, into the marketplace and to share Christ wherever he could. Peter uses this word to describe unbelievers and their walk in the flesh in 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 10. And then if you look at that word hedonistic or whatever, that root idea, Titus, we're going to see it in Titus 3:3, it also describes unbelievers. In other words, so Paul's saying, don't be like the unbeliever. Be genuine. Be who you are. Are you a believer in Christ? Have you believed the gospel that Jesus died for you? What difference does it make in your life? What does it make a difference in your life, or are you living in the flesh as if you didn't have the life of God within you? Galatians 5. So be a blameless steward with a Christ-like will. And what was Christ's will? Not mine, but yours. That's the attitude, the mentality we ought to have. Number 2, blameless stewards are not quick-tempered. And I just like the word that I left there for you, irascible. I don't know. It just kind of rang true with the idea. But irritable, grumpy, cantankerous, hot-tempered, that kind of an idea. And I asked Sherry for something like this, to find a picture like that. You get the idea, someone that is hot-tempered and that kind of an idea of. But where does this come from? Hey, this is from the heart as well, isn't it? This idea of tempered, being angry. I mean, we've all been there probably. We've all been there when we blew our stack. The smoke rolling out of our ears like that. We've all done that. And red hair, heritage, etc. It's not an excuse. And I'm picking on no one here, okay? But I've never heard her use that as an excuse, all right? But that's the idea. Oh, it's my whatever. The only reason, the only thing we can say is that we're all sinners. That's the only heritage we can claim, that we're all sinners and we've all been guilty. And it's interesting when you look at this word, it's easy from the Greek to see, even though this word's only used here in the New Testament, it's easy to see that this is a common word for anger. It's a common word for anger. That's the root comes from the common word for wrath and anger. It often refers to the wrath of God, by the way. But it's also used in human circles. It's where in Colossians 3:8 it says, we ought to be putting this off. It ought not be part of who we are. We ought to be put off. This wrath is to be put off. And then the other one that jumped out at me was 1 Timothy 2:8. In the context of prayer, don't use wrath. That's interesting. I'll let you study that out on your own, but that context is about prayer. And I was trying to think of Old Testament situations, and then it just popped out at me when Nathan came to David. David just got angry. He got angry at that sheep stealer. And then it hit him right between the eyes when Nathan said, that's you. That's you. Yes, there's righteous anger, but there's also other kinds of anger. And we are to be angry and sin not. Be a blameless steward with a calm demeanor of trust in the Lord. That's what it takes, isn't it? It's a heart of trusting the Lord rather than taking things in your own hands. And we all need the lesson. Number 3, be blameless stewards are not given to wine. And it's literally the words there are beside wine. And that's the sense of the word here. They're not beside wine. In fact, it's interesting, the next, beginning with beside wine and the next two, these three are all found in the basic same order in 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 3, talking about elders there as well. So these three are just common ones. I find it interesting in the last few years as I read periodicals and things in the Christian circles that there's been several well-known pastors in the last few years who have fallen for drunkenness and some for pills. And it's just kind of, wow. There's a guy that has dealt with these type of, and trying to lead these ministries through some of the difficulties when their pastor or leader spiritual falls. His name is Phil Cook. And he said, in the case of pastors and ministry leaders, there are 6 types of risky conduct that I've seen played out time and time again. At least one of them is almost always in play at the time of his or her fall. And he lists number one as abuse of alcohol or sleeping pills. He makes a comment on this one. He says, especially if you're a pastor, I can give you plenty of reasons never to drink at all. But having said that, I don't believe that the Bible prohibits alcohol use. But it does clearly warn about getting drunk. The problem is with booze, you don't have to be drunk to do risky and stupid things. And I'm going to quote Ephesians 5 in a moment here, but in Ephesians 5 it says in verse 18, don't be drunk with wine wherein is excess. In other words, there's things associated with it. That's what the idea is there. The things associated with it, don't fall there, but be filled with the Spirit. Let the Spirit control you rather than booze. And just for your inquisitive minds, what's the other 6? I'm just going to rattle them off. Crude sexualized joking. Number 3 was time away from your spouse. Number 4, pornography. Number 5, really stupid decisions, often related to having power, money, no transparency, and lots of control. And then number 6, no questioning the boss. No questioning the boss. Anyway, and there's been pastors that have fallen in all of those things, Christian leaders that have fallen in all of those things. And what does Proverbs say? Wine's a mocker, strong drink is a brawler. Whoever's led astray by it is not wise. Drunkenness is listed as the work of the flesh in Galatians 5. And we stewards are to be filled with the Spirit. Walk in the Spirit, not anything else. Be a blameless steward with sober thought and action. Number 4, blameless stewards are not violent and ready for a blow, pugnacious, quarrelsome. Would a faithful steward jumped on the BLM bandwagon and gone and rioted in the streets? Of course not. Would a blameless steward have been in the January 6th attack in the Capitol? We may sympathize with some of what other people have done, but we're not violent. We're not to be violent. My dad taught us to box as boys. He thought maybe preachers' kids might get picked on. And so, yeah, we learned how to put up our dukes a little. But I don't think we ever used them on each other. I don't think we ever really hit each other. I did one time bump my friend on the chin for picking on my little brother, and I was surprised when he dropped to the ground. But I don't know if it was a lucky punch or what. Kids in school, one in grade school, that he was just an angry guy. He was just ready to fight like that. I remember coming in one time after lunch, and there's another friend, and both teeth knocked out. You know, I mean, what? Front teeth knocked out. He got pretty silver ones, but yeah. Anyway, but just from the idea of just no reason at all, it seemed like. And then to make it a little more personal, I remember in finals day, and I come walking out of the class around the corner, and bam, bam, got hit twice in the face for something that he supposedly said, which I can't recall. By the way, I went back to the anger that I shouldn't have had, but we won't. I'm glad he didn't show up to school the next day, because I was ready. But anyway, you know, I think one of the most foolish, violent things I saw was a iron worker. We're 20 feet in the air, and one guy got mad at something the boss said, and they're 20 feet in the air on a couple of boards, and he's trying to throw a punch at the boss, you know, and anyway, kind of, you know, someone who's ready to fight? It shouldn't be us. By the way, violence doesn't have to be done with fists these days, does it? Social media has caused a lot of violent situations. There's no room for violent character among stewards. Be blameless stewards, exuding peace. Peace. And finally, blameless stewards are not greedy for money. And the Greek words that make this up are shame and gain. You're not out for gain that is in a shameful way. So he's not saying it's wrong to make money. There's nothing wrong with making money. But there's wrong in making it in shameful means. And I got a feeling that might be for the elders, for those in position, to use their position to make something, to do something. And people ask me, well, how much you want to marry me? How much you want to bury somebody or what? I never say anything. And that's not, I'm out to serve the Lord. But it's interesting, I just heard this on the news, I think it was Friday, that there's a new poll out that Americans feel they need to earn approximately $233,000 a year on average to be secure and comfortable with their finances. So I'll be sending a note to no. I'm not out for shameful gain, yeah. And if you want to be rich and achieve financial freedoms, it's $483,000. Cope. Anyway, you want to volunteer? Yeah, yeah. Greed's a heart matter, isn't it? It's a heart matter. It's a heart matter. And all you got to do is watch the news from time to time, and it doesn't matter what your income level is. If you're hungry or if you make $500,000, there's people that are pilfering and stealing all along the way, no matter what. So it's not a matter of need, it's a matter of greed, and it comes from the heart. For God's stewards, shameful gain should not be a part of it, whether it's some kind of a promise, some kind of a bribe. You know, it's different in America probably in our attitudes, but most of the world, just ask somebody who does business around the world, most of the world lives on bribes. Position means wealth. And we can thank God that isn't supposed to happen in America. Now, I won't go any further with that, but we know it's not supposed to. And we have a system built on biblical principles. But the challenge here is to be a blameless steward, be content and generous. Be content and generous. We are stewards of God. From the heart, we serve him with pleasure for his glory. If we get the picture of being a steward, that's where we ought to be. It's for his pleasure. It's for his glory. It leaves no room for the greed or violence or drunkenness or tempers or selfish pleasures. It overrides our fears, and he will be our focus. It gives joy when we get it the right perspective. There's joy, there's purposefulness, and there's thrills beyond compare. First, do all to the glory of God, not seeking your own profit. In that way, you'll be a follower of Paul in chapter 11 and verse 1. A blameless steward of God. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you give us direction on practical things like this. And we know that we struggle and we stumble and we're challenged because we're not perfect. And I thank you that you use us even in imperfection, for your glory as we allow you to use our hearts for you. May it be genuine. May it be real, not just a didactic thing that's outside that list of rules, but may be a heart leaning on you, trusting you every step of the way for your glory. Amen.